This is the Sober Professor, and in today's class, I'll be sharing the 5 things that happened to me when I quit drinking. Make sure you stick to the end, where I'll be sharing how getting sober made me rich and how you can get rich too. If you find these videos helpful, give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and click that bell so you can receive notifications. Now put on your thinking caps, make sure to take notes, and let this class begin. Welcome to Sober Life University, a digital university where we discuss all things sober. Today's topic: what happens when you quit drinking? My journey drinking alcohol started at 18 when I went off to college. I grew up in an alcoholic household, and as a child, I told myself that I would never drink, as I had seen the chaos and dysfunction brought on by alcoholism. However, when I got to college and saw almost everybody around me drinking, I gave in to the peer pressure and began experimenting with the different types of alcohol. Drinking made me feel a sense of relief and loss of inhibitions that I had never felt before. Growing up as a shy and overweight kid, I felt awkward socializing and had very few friends. I always felt like an outsider and felt uncomfortable in my own skin. I felt a ton of social anxiety just trying to fit in. When I drank, I felt all that anxiety was gone, as I would get the liquid courage to do and say things that I wouldn't normally say sober. I became a social butterfly at parties, and all of my cares were gone for a few hours. I felt a sense of invincibility without the fear of rejection, to dance without a care in the world. After college, most of my friends outgrew the college binge drinking phase. But for me, that's when my alcoholism really took off. Now with the job, I had more money to spend on my drinking and partying. I was living for the weekends, waiting for Friday nights to go to bars, nightclubs, and music festivals, binge drinking throughout the entire weekend. Struggling to get through the work week, feeling tired and hungover, and waiting for the weekend just to do it all over again. I live by the motto of work hard, play harder. And I never really thought that I had a problem, as I had a job, was climbing the career ladder, and even had a regular gym routine. Over time, my weekend binge drinking habits started spilling over into the week, with regular happy hours that would turn into drinking until the bar closed, and eventually having my daily glass of wine. Eventually, that 1 to 2 glasses turned to 3 to 4, then an entire bottle. And towards the end of my alcoholism, up to 2 bottles in a night. And again, I never really thought I had a problem. I would still make it into work on time, keep my gym routine, and saw drinking normalized via entertainment and social media. As the stressors of life piled on and my body's alcohol tolerance levels had increased, that's when I started to experience some of the negative effects of binge drinking. In recovery programs, it is often said that drinking begins as just fun, then fun with problems, and eventually only problems. I began to experience more and more problems with my drinking, like blacking out, waking up to embarrassing texts from the night before, losing phones and wallets, and eventually medical and legal problems. And still, I didn't think I had a problem, as I still had a job, kept climbing the career ladder, and kept my regular gym routine. I would tell myself that these problems were only a series of misfortunate events, and neglected addressing how drinking was at the root of my problems. I would tell myself, well, now I know that I can't have this type of liquor, or if I eat before and after drinking, maybe I won't get that drunk, or maybe I can just stick to beer and wine to avoid blacking out. I try to find every possible combination of drinks to convince myself that it wasn't my drinking, but rather the type of drink that was causing my problems. Eventually, my drinking led me to the phase where I was only experiencing problems, and those problems only led me to want to seek an escape with more drinking. Instead of only drinking while going out and socializing, I was drinking alone and was drinking more and more each time. Eventually, I ended up developing alcohol withdrawal symptoms, where once I would stop drinking, I would experience shakes and tremors, severe anxiety, feeling faint, and experiencing heart palpitations. The only thing that would help stop the discomfort was drinking again. Drinking at this point was no longer fun, and I remember needing to have a bottle to take shots every hour in order to keep the shakes at bay. I eventually ended up having to be hospitalized with life-threatening alcohol withdrawals. That's when I realized that I had a problem, and I knew I had to stop drinking for good. I began to attend AA meetings and started to gain some periods of sobriety for 30 or 60 days. Then I would drink again, telling myself that I wasn't really an alcoholic like the extreme cases of others in AA. I kept stopping for a month or two, then drinking again, and I did this for over a year. Eventually, my drinking caught up to me during a 9-day binge drinking episode, where I ended up having an even worse case of withdrawal symptoms that lasted for over 2 weeks, and I was unable to keep up with my responsibilities any longer. I realized how alcohol had completely taken over my life. During my time in and out of AA, I remember hearing many times that what worked for people was surrendering, and that once they got on their knees and asked God for help, that's when things started to change. As I was shaking and sweating from withdrawals, I was feeling desperate and willing to do whatever I had to do in order to make them stop. I got on my knees and prayed, God, if you're out there, I need help. I had reached the point of surrender where I was willing to do whatever I had to in order to avoid feeling withdrawals ever again. I was finally taking my sobriety seriously. I started going to meetings regularly, working with others, and began to implement the suggestions of those who had longer periods of sobriety. I worked through the first 90 days, staying closely connected with others in recovery as I fought through the cravings and temptations to drink again. The flashbacks of the terrible experience of going through withdrawals was what kept me from drinking. I remember people in recovery telling me things like, "You'll live a life beyond your wildest dreams." And as I gained more time in sobriety, I began to understand what they meant. These are the 5 things that happened to me once I quit drinking for good. Number 1, no regrets. When I was drinking, I would live by the motto of work hard, play harder, as a way to normalize my binge drinking. On my binge drinking episodes, I'd act impulsively, telling myself that I was living a life of no regrets. In reality, my drinking was making me live a life full of regrets. From the embarrassing text messages and behaviors around others, to getting into legal and financial trouble, to ruining relationships, and many other situations that would have been avoided had I not been drinking. Through my recovery, I continued to clean the wreckage of my past and making amends for my wrongdoings. Recovery has taught me the principles of honesty and humility to own up for my mistakes and to take action and do what I can to make things right with those that I have wronged. Living by principles of honesty and humility has truly helped me live a life without regrets, knowing that I am growing from my mistakes and working on becoming a better person every day. Number 2, great physique. Towards the end of my drinking, I was consuming hundreds, if not thousands, of empty calories from alcohol alone, and making poor eating choices that I gained significant weight. With worsening depression, low energy, and extreme hangovers, my gym routine became non-existent. When I quit drinking, I began to experience newfound levels of energy and was feeling better mentally and physically. Without all the empty calories I was drinking and without the impaired judgment, I was making better eating choices. My skin started clearing up and started getting physically fit again. I substituted my nights drinking for gym time and experienced all the benefits from the endorphins released during exercise. I began to get back into my running hobby, and during my first year of sobriety, started running half marathons again. This only helped improve my mental health, which brings me to number 3. Number 3, natural high. The mental clarity that I experienced once I got sober was beyond anything that I could describe. I started getting better sleep and feeling more clear-minded and alert. I was able to focus better at work and my productivity increased significantly. Surrounding myself with people in recovery kept me in a positive mindset by practicing gratitude and being around other supportive individuals who gave me the encouragement to stay sober. I began to experience joy and happiness without the need of a substance. I was naturally high on life, living life with more gratitude and optimism. Number 4, increased confidence. Getting sober gave me a newfound sense of confidence that I had never experienced before. Recovery helped me renew my mind by getting out of negative thought patterns. It helped me address the root of my anxiety and depression and find coping strategies to break out of negative thoughts. I've learned how the word fear is an acronym for false evidence appearing real, and how to calm my anxious thoughts for fears that my mind would create by overthinking. Getting sober helped me calm my anxious thoughts and learn the other acronym for fear, face everything and rise, where I learned coping strategies to confront my fears and grow mentally and rise above my negative thought patterns. Working on my mental health through recovery helped develop a new sense of confidence and knowing that I can confront difficult situations without looking for an escape through the use of a substance. It helped me stay on a path of growth and become the best version of myself every day. Number 5, became rich. Getting sober made me rich. It made me rich in the sense that it gave me a life full of purpose, worthy goals, and meaningful relationships. Sure, my drinking was costing me a lot of money, and since quitting drinking, I've been able to position myself in a better financial situation. You can watch this video where I talk about the real cost of drinking. However, richness and the quality of life that I get to live now in sobriety is something that money can't buy. Living a sober life means that you're living a life that is full across the following 5 areas, which you can remember as the 5 F's. The 5 F's: fitness, family, faith, finances, and fulfillment. The first F, fitness, or this can be categorized as overall physical and mental well-being. Getting sober helped me improve this area of my life significantly, and being mentally and physically fit only further helps us to take action to improve other areas of our lives. If you want to become rich in this area, Make an inventory as to where you are today in terms of your physical and mental well-being and where it is that you want to be. Remember that by cutting alcohol, you'll be cutting several hundred empty calories. And without the impaired judgment, you can make better eating choices and stay physically active. Physical activity will help you release endorphins, reduce stress, and improve your quality of sleep. All of these benefits from cutting alcohol will make you rich in your fitness and improve your overall physical and mental well-being. The second F, family. This category can also apply for friends or other individuals in which you want to have deeper and richer relationships. When I quit drinking, I realized just how much I had neglected deepening the relationships with my friends and family due to my excessive drinking. Once I quit drinking, I had the opportunity to spend more time with individuals in my life and deepen the relationships by sharing sober moments and authentic conversations that help to rebuild the trust and strengthen our relationships. If you want to have richer relationships with friends or family members, think of those individuals that you would want to get to know better. And as you have more time from not drinking, take the initiative to ask a family member or friend to go out for a meal or coffee and enjoy having a deeper conversation while sober. Being sober will give you the mental clarity to think of how you would like to bond and deepen your relationship by either asking for support with your recovery or apologizing for past mistakes and finding ways to make up for lost time. The third F, faith. Most recovery programs define addiction as a spiritual malady where we are filling a void that we feel inside, and we attempt to fill that void with drugs, alcohol, or other risky behaviors to make us feel better temporarily. It is the emptiness that leads many of us to feel sadness, pain, and emotional discomfort. Many resort to self-medicating with drugs or alcohol to numb or escape those feelings. Recovery programs are built on the basis that the only thing that can fulfill us is a spiritual connectedness to something greater than ourselves. Part of many recovery programs include a step in which we learn how to establish a conscious contact with God and begin to rebuild that relationship, in which we learn how to grow along spiritual lines. Some of the practices that can help us achieve this include prayer and meditation, journaling, or talking to another person in recovery. As we begin to grow along spiritual lines, we begin to heal the areas of our lives that have caused us to seek an escape and find healthier coping alternatives that help us to steer away from self-destructive behaviors. As we continue to grow, our spiritual maturity will lead us to do the next right thing and begin to change our old behaviors to live more honestly and lovingly to others. This includes learning how to forgive and ask for forgiveness, making amends for the mistakes of our past, and being in service to others. The more we do this, the more we get out of our own head and begin to experience the mental clarity to become better individuals to ourselves and those around us. To become rich in your faith, think of how you would like to establish your conscious contact with God and commit to making this a part of your daily routine. I like to start my day with gratitude for another day and talking to God about what I have going on for the day. I spend the day in prayer as I go through challenging situations and asking for wisdom and guidance on how to face obstacles. I end my day by reviewing what happened during the day and reflecting on the areas where I could improve. Find what works for you, whether that's developing a prayer routine, journaling, talking to someone, or finding that quiet alone time to reflect and think through how you can grow spiritually. The fourth F, finances. By cutting our drinking habit, we are saving hundreds, if not thousands of dollars that we can use for ways to better improve our lives. When I quit drinking, I found myself with extra time and money. I began investing that money into things that would help me become the better version of myself. I started investing in personal development workshops and started taking business courses that had helped me build 3 different businesses. I began to learn about finances and began to clean up my financial situation by analyzing my spending habits and learning about investing. I eventually was able to quit my job and become my own boss and have started 3 different businesses. To become financially rich, you can start by analyzing how much your drinking habit is costing you and what alternative ways you can spend that money on things that will help you become the best version of yourself. You can find more info on the real cost of alcohol in this video here. And the fifth F, a fulfilling life. Being sober has allowed me to live a more fulfilling life. I have learned to heal emotionally and grow spiritually. I have learned to deepen relationships with those around me and feel a deep sense of purpose by being of service to others. I began doing outreach to the homeless population in Skid Row in downtown Los Angeles, where I built relationships with individuals struggling with drugs and alcohol. I developed a strong sense of empathy and learned how to love strangers by getting to know their stories and demonstrating compassion. I have had the privilege to share my testimony with others and the privilege to see individuals getting off the streets and getting sober. Doing this work led me to start this channel and to build Sober Life University, where profits from ad revenue and products will be going to providing outreach to individuals struggling with addiction. For a long time, I carried a lot of shame and having become alcohol dependent and reaching full-blown alcoholism. As I shared my experience with others in Skid Row, I was able to relate to the struggle. And I was able to listen without judgment, knowing exactly what it feels like to be under the grips of addiction. Many have shared the trust that they felt in having someone genuinely interested in hearing their story and caring for them. I began to learn how to love at a level that I had never experienced before. I began to understand what it means to love your neighbor as yourself. And that's a type of rich that money can't buy. That's why I say that sobriety made me rich. To become rich in this area, think of the things that you are passionate about. And what are the ways in which you can spend more time doing the things that give you a sense of purpose? By cutting alcohol, you will have more time and money that can help you dive into the things that you are passionate about. And as you discover a sense of purpose, you will experience a level of fulfillment that you'll soon realize that the need for alcohol is not necessary. As a recap, here are the 5 things that happened to me when I quit drinking. Number 1, great physique. Number 2, no regrets. Number 3, natural high. Number 4, increased confidence. And number 5, becoming rich. And here's a recap of the 5 F's to living a rich life: fitness, family, faith, finances, and fulfillment. Comment below and let me know which areas you found most relatable or surprising. I read through all the comments and do live streams across the social media pages. Make sure you follow Sober Life U across the different platforms. If you found this video helpful and you think it could benefit others, give this video a thumbs up and click that subscribe button. These actions help the YouTube algorithm to suggest it to others who may be searching this topic. To make sure you don't miss a single lesson, click that bell icon to receive notifications with new videos. Thank you for enrolling in Sober Life University. Until next class, the Sober Professor, signing off.